Open the doors of almost any garden shed, and what do you see? A terrifying collection of dusty plastic bottles, toxic chemical sprays, fungicides, and synthetic bug killers that cost a small fortune and smell absolutely awful. We have been brainwashed into thinking that gardening means constantly fighting a toxic war against nature, putting on a mask and spraying poison just to get a decent tomato. But what if I told you that every single one of those expensive bottles is completely useless? I stopped buying garden chemicals 3 years ago, and my vegetable beds and fruit trees are producing 3 times as much fruit with a fraction of the effort. Today, I am going to share the ultimate secret of lazy, smart gardening. I will reveal the one single natural remedy that replaces every single chemical treatment for the entire season. You will learn exactly how to mix it, when to use it, and why this one simple switch will turn your struggling plants into unstoppable, high-yielding machines. Get ready, because what you're about to hear goes against everything the garden centers want you to believe. Before we reveal this master formula, we need to understand the absolute disaster that modern chemical gardening has created in our backyards. For decades, the chemical industry has treated our gardens like sterile laboratories. When you spray a synthetic pesticide, it is like dropping a bomb on a bustling city. Yes, it kills the aphids, but it also massacres the beneficial ladybugs, the predatory wasps, and the microscopic soil life that your plants desperately rely on for their immune systems. When plants absorb these synthetic chemicals, their natural defense mechanisms shut down completely. They become lazy and utterly dependent on you to protect them, much like a person who relies on antibiotics for every tiny sniffle. In the natural world, a forest or a wild meadow does not need human intervention to survive fungal attacks or pest invasions. Plants have evolved over millions of years to defend themselves, provided they have a healthy environment. By stepping back and using one holistic, naturally derived protective layer, we are not just killing bugs. We are restoring the biological balance of your garden. We are turning your fragile vegetable beds into a resilient, self-regulating ecosystem where nature does 90% of the hard work for you. So let us get right to the heart of the matter and talk about the holy grail of organic, lazy gardening. The single remedy that replaces your entire chemical arsenal is a perfectly balanced emulsion of pure, cold-pressed neem oil, true liquid Castile soap, and water. Now, I know you might have heard of neem oil before, but I guarantee you have probably been using it wrong, which is why you did not see spectacular results. We are not talking about those cheap, pre-mixed chemical sprays at the hardware store that claim to contain neem extracts. Those are completely stripped of their active natural compounds. We are talking about the thick, earthy, pure oil pressed directly from the seeds of the neem tree. This ancient tree, native to India, is naturally resistant to hundreds of different insects and diseases. When we harness its raw power, we are essentially borrowing the tree's powerful immune system and giving it to our vulnerable garden plants. It is an all-in-one organic fungicide, a powerful miticide, and a brilliant insecticide that handles everything from the top of your apple trees down to the roots of your cabbage. The biggest mistake eager gardeners make is trying to mix raw oil directly with water. You can shake that spray bottle until your arms fall off, but oil and water will never truly mix. If you spray that on your plants, you will get heavy drops of pure oil that will magnify the sun and absolutely scorch your precious leaves. This is where the magic of the emulsifier comes in. You must use a pure natural liquid soap, like peppermint Castile soap. The soap acts as a bridge. The soap molecules grab onto the heavy neem oil on one side and the water on the other, breaking the thick oil down into millions of microscopic droplets. When you mix this properly in warm water, the solution should instantly turn a beautiful, milky white color. This milky emulsion is your liquid gold. It ensures that when you spray your plants, every single leaf gets a perfectly even microscopic coating of protection, rather than dangerous blobs of heavy oil. It is exactly like creating a perfect salad dressing, and mastering this simple mixing step is the key to unlocking the true power of this method. Let us talk about the absolute nightmare that is an aphid infestation on your prized roses or your young pepper plants. Aphids multiply so fast it seems like they appear out of thin air overnight, sucking the vital sap right out of the tender stems. Chemical sprays kill them by acting as a harsh nerve toxin, which eventually poisons the very plant you are trying to save. But our natural oil and soap mixture works on pure, brilliant physical mechanics. Because soft-bodied insects like aphids actually breathe through tiny holes on the sides of their bodies. This spray acts as an immediate physical trap. The microscopic layer of oil totally coats their bodies, plugging those breathing holes instantly. The soap breaks down their protective outer layer, and they simply suffocate within minutes. There is no toxic residue left behind, no poison entering the cellular structure of your pepper plants, and absolutely zero chance for the aphids to build up a genetic resistance. You cannot build an immunity to being smothered. This means this spray works just as perfectly on day one as it will in 10 years. Now, we must address the ultimate heartbreak for every single vegetable gardener in the world, which is tomato blight. You spend months nurturing those tomato vines only to watch the leaves turn yellow, develop terrifying brown spots, and wither away to nothing right before the harvest. Fungal spores travel through the air and splash up from the soil during heavy summer rains. Most people try to fight this with heavy copper fungicides that build up toxic levels in the soil over time. But our lazy gardening spray is a master of fungal prevention. When you coat your tomato leaves with this mixture, you are applying a physical, waterproof barrier. It is like putting a tiny raincoat on every single leaf. When the blight spores land on your plant, they find a slippery, oil-coated surface instead of a vulnerable, wet leaf. They cannot attach, they cannot penetrate the cellular wall, and they simply die off. By applying this just once every 2 weeks, you can keep your tomatoes lush, green, and producing massive fruit straight through until the first frost hits your garden. Fruit trees are usually the most intimidating part of any home orchard, and they are notorious for requiring complex, confusing chemical spray schedules. Garden centers will try to sell you dormant oils, spring blossom sprays, and summer pest poisons. You can throw all of those confusing calendars straight into the trash. Our single mixture replaces the entire routine. In the early spring, just before the leaf buds begin to open on your apple, peach, and cherry trees, you hit them with a strong dose of this mixture. The oil creeps into every tiny crack and crevice of the rough tree bark. It finds the microscopic eggs of overwintering pests, like scale and leaf rollers, and smothers them completely before they even have a chance to hatch. This single, proactive step in the cool days of early spring eliminates 90% of the pest problems you would normally spend the entire blazing hot summer fighting. It is the ultimate strategy for the gardener who wants to harvest perfect sweet fruit without spending every single weekend dragging a heavy sprayer around the orchard. One of the most profound benefits of switching to this single organic method is how it interacts with the real heroes of your garden, the pollinators. Without bees, butterflies, and hovering flies, your garden is completely useless. You will get beautiful flowers, but absolutely zero fruit. Chemical pesticides are indiscriminate killers. They wipe out the good guys just as violently as the bad guys. But our natural mixture is uniquely safe for your pollinators, provided you follow one simple rule of timing. You must always spray in the late evening, right as the sun is going down and the bees have returned to their hives for the night. The wet spray will smother the pests that are currently on the plant, but within an hour or two, the mixture dries into a thin, invisible, waxy film. When the bees return the very next morning to pollinate your squash and cucumbers, the dry film does not harm them at all. They can land, collect their pollen, and fly away completely healthy. You are creating a safe sanctuary for the good bugs while absolutely destroying the pests. Let us take a moment to look at the pure financial genius of this system. If you walk into a garden center and buy a bottle of synthetic fungicide, a bottle of chemical pesticide, a bottle of miticide, and a bottle of dormant tree oil, you are easily spending between $60 and $100 every single season, and most of those products expire or lose their potency if left in a freezing shed over the winter. On the other hand, a single large bottle of pure cold-pressed neem oil and a bottle of liquid Castile soap will cost you maybe $25. Because you are only using about 1 tablespoon of oil and 1 teaspoon of soap per gallon of water, that initial investment will easily last the average home gardener 3 to 5 entire growing seasons. You are literally slashing your garden maintenance budget to pennies on the dollar. You can take all of that saved money and invest it in beautiful new fruit trees, high-quality compost, or that comfortable garden hammock you have been dreaming about. This is exactly what we mean when we say smart gardening. While we are talking about application, there is a golden rule you must memorize to make this work perfectly, and that is mastering the timing of your spray. The sun is incredibly powerful, and applying any type of oil to a green leaf in the middle of a hot summer day is a recipe for absolute disaster. The oil droplets act like tiny magnifying glasses, and the harsh midday sun will literally cook your plants, leaving devastating brown burn marks all over your delicate foliage. The lazy gardener knows that patience is key. You wait until the sun dips below the tree line, when the air begins to cool down and the harsh light is gone. Spraying in the twilight gives the plant the entire night to absorb the beneficial compounds of the mixture without any risk of sunburn. The liquid has time to dry into a protective shield slowly and evenly. By the time the morning sun rises, your plants are armored and ready to face the heat of the day, completely protected and stress-free. To really appreciate why this works so well, we need to talk about the magical organic compound hidden inside pure neem oil, called azadirachtin. This is not just a physical smothering agent, it is a brilliant biological hacker. When leaf-chewing insects, like the dreaded Japanese beetles or hungry caterpillars, take a bite out of a leaf coated in this spray, they ingest a tiny amount of this compound. Azadirachtin is incredibly similar to the hormones that insects use to regulate their own bodies. When it enters their system, it completely scrambles their brain signals. The pest literally forgets how to eat, it forgets how to mate, and it forgets how to lay eggs. It just sits there, confused, and eventually starves to death over the next few days. It is a slow, silent, and incredibly effective victory for the gardener. And the best part? It only affects the insects that are actively chewing on your plant material. Predators like ladybugs and praying mantises, who only eat other bugs and never chew on the leaves, are completely unaffected by this brilliant biological defense. Powdery mildew is another massive headache that makes gardeners want to pull their hair out. You know the exact feeling. You walk out in mid-July, and suddenly you see those dreaded, dusty white spots spreading across your zucchini and cucumber leaves like spilled flour. If left unchecked, it will drain the life out of the vines in less than a week. Our natural spray is an absolute superhero against this fungal nightmare. When you spray the soap and oil emulsion onto the infected leaves, you are immediately changing the pH level and the surface tension of the leaf. Powdery mildew absolutely requires a very specific, dry, unprotected surface to thrive. The soapy oil mixture completely smothers the existing fungal spores, stopping the spread instantly. Within 48 hours, you will see the white powder turn a dull gray and wash away, leaving the green leaf beneath it healthy and intact. I have seen cucumber vines that looked completely doomed bounce back and produce dozens of fresh vegetables just because of a single 5-minute rescue mission with this incredible spray. One of the most destructive hidden costs of chemical sprays is what they do when they inevitably drip off the leaves and wash down into your garden soil. Synthetic chemicals act like bleach, wiping out the delicate underground food web, killing earthworms, and destroying the beneficial bacteria that break down organic matter. Your soil becomes dead dirt. But when our natural oil and soap mixture drips off the tomatoes and soaks into the ground, a beautiful thing happens. Earthworms are not harmed by it at all. In fact, the natural fatty acids in the true Castile soap and the complex organic compounds in the raw oil actually become food for the microscopic soil bacteria. Instead of destroying the foundation of your garden, the runoff from your spray actually breaks down into natural elements that enrich the root zone. You are feeding the soil biology from above, ensuring that your vegetable beds grow more fertile and vibrant with every single application. It is a closed-loop system of absolute garden health. Now let us talk about the lazy gardener's ultimate schedule, because nobody wants to spend their entire weekend mixing and spraying. The beauty of this single systemic replacement is its incredible staying power. Unlike harsh chemicals that wash off in the first light rain, the natural waxes in the oil cling to the plant tissues tenaciously. For general maintenance and absolute prevention, you only need to mix up a batch of this magic formula once every 14 days. Just 2 times a month, take a relaxing evening stroll through your garden with your pump sprayer. Coat your tomatoes, mist the brassicas, and give the fruit trees a quick shower. That is it. That simple bi-weekly habit creates an impenetrable shield of health across your entire property. If you happen to spot an active, aggressive infestation of something stubborn like a massive cluster of aphids, you might spray that specific plant twice in 1 week to break their life cycle. But overall, this method demands incredibly little of your time while delivering absolute maximum results. Spider mites are the invisible assassins of the gardening world. They are so microscopic that most people do not even realize they have a problem until the leaves of their favorite plants start turning yellow, curling up, and showing tiny ghostly webs stretching between the stems. Chemical pesticides are notoriously bad at killing spider mites, and in many cases, harsh chemicals actually cause the mite populations to explode because they kill off all the mites' natural predators. This is where our organic emulsion truly shines as a world-class miticide. Because spider mites are incredibly tiny, the suffocating action of the heavy oil works almost instantaneously on them. The soap breaks through their fine protective webbing, allowing the oil to coat their microscopic bodies and eggs completely. A thorough drenching of your infested plants will completely wipe out a spider mite colony in a matter of days, saving plants that chemical treatments would have absolutely condemned to death. A crucial technique you must master to make this work is the geometry of the spray. The biggest mistake amateur gardeners make is just casually misting the top of the leaves like they are watering the lawn. That is completely useless. Most garden pests, though, from aphids to whiteflies to fungal spores, love to hide in the deep, dark shade on the underside of the leaves. If you only spray the top, you are leaving the back door wide open for the invaders. When you apply this mixture, you need to turn the wand of your sprayer completely upside down. You want to spray from the bottom up, lifting the heavy tomato branches and getting deep inside the canopy of the plant. Imagine you are trying to paint the ceiling of a room, not the floor. By ensuring the underside of every single leaf is dripping with this milky emulsion, you are destroying the hidden fortresses of the pests. This simple shift in the angle of your wrist is the difference between a garden that struggles and a garden that produces massive, unblemished harvests. Let us talk about growing brassicas, which means your cabbages, broccoli, and kale. Growing these beautiful plants organically can feel like an impossible task because of the dreaded cabbage white butterfly. They flutter around so beautifully, but they are laying hundreds of tiny yellow eggs on your pristine kale leaves. When those eggs hatch, the green caterpillars will skeletonize a massive cabbage head in just 48 hours. Using our one-ingredient miracle solves this problem beautifully. When you coat the waxy leaves of your broccoli and cabbage with the oil emulsion, it makes the surface of the leaf incredibly slippery and unappealing. When the butterfly lands to lay her eggs, the eggs simply cannot adhere properly to the slick, oiled surface, and many of them wash away. For the few eggs that do hatch, the caterpillars take one bite of the coated leaf, ingest the bitter natural compounds, and immediately stop feeding. You will finally be able to harvest perfect, pristine heads of broccoli without a single chemical worm killer in sight. There is a vital rule regarding the shelf life of this mixture that you absolutely must follow, or you will waste your time and your money. You cannot mix a giant gallon jug of this formula, use half of it, and leave the rest sitting on a shelf in the hot garage for next week. Once the pure oil is exposed to the water in the soap, the potent natural compounds begin to break down and degrade very quickly. Within about 12 to 24 hours, the incredible pest-fighting power of the mixture is practically gone. The lazy, smart gardener only mixes exactly what they need for that specific evening. If you have a small garden, just mix up a 1-quart hand sprayer. If you have an orchard, mix a full 2-gallon backpack sprayer. If you happen to have a little bit left over at the end of your spraying session, do not save it. Just pour the remaining liquid directly around the base of your most prized tomato plant to feed the soil microbes. Freshness is the ultimate key to maximum potency. One of the most stressful parts of using chemical pesticides is the terrifying waiting game known as the days to harvest interval. You read the back of a chemical bottle, and it strictly warns you not to eat the fruit for 14 or even 21 days after spraying because the poison is literally inside the plant tissue. What happens if your cucumbers are perfectly ripe today, but you just sprayed yesterday? It is incredibly frustrating. With our natural soap and oil emulsion, there is zero waiting period, because the mixture sits entirely on the outside surface of the leaf and the fruit, and because it contains absolutely no synthetic toxins, the days to harvest interval is 0. You can spray your beautiful heads of lettuce at 6 o'clock in the morning to chase away a few aphids, walk out at noon, cut that exact same lettuce, give it a quick rinse in the kitchen sink to wash off the mild soapy residue, and eat it for lunch safely. It brings absolute peace of mind to growing food for your family. Over time, the most miraculous thing happens when you commit to this single organic method. You're not just treating the symptoms of a weak garden. You are fundamentally altering the resilience of your entire growing space. When plants are not constantly shocked by harsh synthetic chemicals, their own internal defense mechanisms grow incredibly strong. Their cellular walls become thicker, their root systems grow deeper, and they naturally produce higher levels of their own protective essential oils. After 3 full seasons of using only this natural oil emulsion, you will notice that pests barely even bother your garden anymore. Your fruit trees will shrug off minor bug attacks without dropping a single leaf. Your tomatoes will power through damp weather without a spot of blight. You are essentially training your garden to be tough, self-sufficient, and wildly productive. You transform from a stressed-out chemical warrior into a relaxed, observant manager of a thriving natural ecosystem. Let us quickly review the absolute simplicity of the master recipe so you can start right now. You need warm water, not hot, but just warm enough to help things melt together. For every 1 gallon of warm water, you will add 1 to 2 tablespoons of pure cold-pressed neem oil. Never settle for the clarified, cheap stuff. Then add 1 teaspoon of pure liquid Castile soap. Put the soap and the oil in the sprayer first, swirl them around to create a thick paste, and then vigorously add the warm water to create that beautiful, milky emulsion. It smells a bit earthy, like garlic and roasted nuts, which is the scent of true organic victory. This single, inexpensive jug of liquid will replace every confusing, toxic, expensive bottle in your shed. It is time to simplify your gardening life. Stop buying into the fear that the chemical companies sell. You have the power to grow an astonishing amount of food with just this one brilliant ancient tool. When you finally take the leap and throw away all those toxic bottles, you will feel a massive weight lift off your shoulders. Gardening is supposed to be a source of peace, health, and connection to the earth, not a stressful science experiment in a hazmat suit. By using this one remarkable spray, you are honoring the natural biology of the soil, protecting the delicate bees, and ensuring that every single tomato, apple, and pepper you bring into your kitchen is completely pure and safe. The lazy gardening approach is not about neglecting your plants. It is about working smarter, using the brilliance of nature to do the heavy lifting for you. You will save money, you will save time, and you will be absolutely amazed at the explosive growth and massive yields your plants will reward you with when they are finally free from the burden of synthetic chemicals. This is the ultimate path to true self-sufficiency. So, there you have it, the ultimate secret to replacing every single toxic chemical in your garden shed with one simple, natural, and incredibly powerful mixture. The true turning point for your harvest comes when you realize that working with nature is always easier and more productive than fighting against it. By switching to this pure oil and soap emulsion, you are not just killing pests. You are building an invincible fortress of health around your vegetables and fruit trees. The effort you save today will multiply into massive, delicious organic harvests for years to come. I promise you, once you see your tomatoes glowing with health and your fruit trees thriving without a single synthetic spray, you will never look back. Thank you so much for watching and for committing to a smarter, healthier way to grow your own food. If you found this video helpful and want to learn more lazy gardening secrets, please hit that subscribe button, give the video a big like, and share it with a friend who loves to garden. Now I want to hear from you. What is the one garden pest or disease that has been driving you absolutely crazy this season? Let me know down in the comments, and let us build a healthier garden together.